Thank you, Keturah. Thank you, Peggy. I like hearing what God is doing in your lives. I don't know if other members of the community feel the same, but it's nice to hear how God works in each and every one of us. It's amazing how we're different. And speaking about differences, this week's parasha is, I think, that's the way I read it this week. It starts by accounting, right? A census. And the word is Naso, right? To count, and then the heads of, right? And it's a very interesting phrase. Even the rabbis, they go about explaining why it's so special, the phrasing of counting the heads. And one of the things that I'm learning is that the Torah, I read Maimonides, Rambam, and he works with a principle that I really like, because I have a tendency to go to the extremes. And Maimonides explains that we always have to look for the golden rule, the path that is in between both extremes, to be balanced in everything. And I like that principle, and I try to apply it in my life, because I tend to go on one extreme or the other. So it's a challenge for me. And reading this week's parasha, I've noticed that the Torah emphasizes, these ideas that we are individuals, but we are part of a community. If you go back to the book of Genesis, right, God is telling us that we are independent beings, but interdependent on. That's why he created them, man and woman, right? A unity, right? So we are independent beings, but we are part of something greater than just ourselves, right? I like what Jonathan Sachs says. He says, we are individuals with a tendency for community. I like that. And so, this balance that the Torah is trying to say to us, that we are individuals, but we are part of something greater than ourselves, is very interesting, because our world is changing. I don't know if you've noticed, but it's changing so fast. Just this week, if you notice what happened in Wisconsin, they put up the flag, the gay flag. Yeah, they put the gay flag with the American flag together.
No.
Yeah, and there was a big fuss over it, because, if you take the 40 near Sauvé, there's a big building of a union, a syndicate building, and they put their flag, and underneath it they put the gay flag.
No.
Yeah, so when you go through the 40, you can see both flags. And the world is changing fast. And you wonder why. And I always, I ask myself, why is it going so fast? What's happening? And as a community, we're talking about being, God created us in His image. He created us as individuals, but we are also interdependent. We are part of a community, right? We are not ourselves. And then you read about all these groups talking about political correctness, right? And I was telling my wife, what is the big fuss over, being politically correct, And so I went on the net and I started reading, and I got some books trying to understand, what's going on. And, and I was reading, I don't know if you know this author, it's Stephen Hicks. He's a teacher of philosophy here in Toronto that teaches postmodernism. And I'm reading his book, and the interesting thing about it is that he's saying that postmodernism basically is trying to elevate the social group you are in, and tries to eliminate the individual, right? So the Torah tells us we are individual who belong to something greater. Postmodernism tells you that there is no individual, only a social group, right? And so he explains that postmodernism has fragmented society in different little groups, depending on your gender, depending on your sex, depending on your economic status. So you have different little groups. And each group has their own rule of understanding themselves. So for example, he says, you are a Mexican. You are from this group called the Mexicans, or let's say the Latinos, okay? And you as a group have identified yourself as the brown people, okay? So that's how your group says who you are. We are the brown people. And on the other side, you have the white people, okay? So the white people cannot talk about the brown people unless they use their language. So if I say I'm a brown person, you as a white person, if you want to address our issue, you have to call us brown. That's being politically correct. If I say, no, I'm going to call you Latino, you're racist. Why? Because you're not taking my understanding of who I am, my feelings. And so we've fragmented, postmodernism has fragmented society in different little groups. And the Torah is teaching us differently, completely differently. When you read or look at the news and you read the Torah speaks for today in an amazing way. It's incredible. And so, I try to, teach my children always. I tell them, I don't ask you to be religious. I'm not telling you to learn Hebrew. I'm not telling you to wear kippah. I'm not telling you to be traditionalist. I'm not telling you to be religious. If you want to do it, that's up to you. But that's not my focus. My focus is, what are you doing to make a difference in this corrupt world? And see, sometimes we think, as parents, that our kids are not listening to us. Because, they're teenagers. They have that attitude, right? Whatever. What do you know? But they listen to you. I know that because I've noticed David. David is very special to me because he's a copy of myself when I was a young kid. And he's, Mr. Know-It-All. That's David, Mr. Know-It-All. And that's why yeah. So anyways, the interesting thing about David is that whenever he sees someone, because he works in downtown, right? And there's a lot of indigenous people from, how do you call that? Inuit people, a lot of Inuit people where he works. And David has a big heart. And he told me this week that he saw a lady that seemed to have the need to eat, right? And he went to her and said, have you eaten today? And the lady said, no, I haven't eaten today. Do you want me to bring you food? He says, yeah, bring me food and a beer. And then David says, I'll bring you food. I can't bring you beer. I'll bring you food. But the thing is that, you see, I'm trying to teach my son or my kids that, as individuals, sometimes we feel that we can't make a difference, but we can't. We can make a big difference, If you have the right understanding of who you are as an individual, and you understand that the one who is in front of you is created in the image of God as you yourself are, you will see the world differently. And you will try to live a more practical life than a mystical religious life. Okay? I tell you this, you know why? And I've been in the Christian circle, environment, and I know how they work, And when I decided to leave Christianity, I thought that, the Jewish people, these people are saints. They walk in the air, right? And that's not it. You know, that's not the reality. And where I work, there's a lot of Orthodox Jews, okay? And you should hear the commentaries I hear, you know, about the Orthodox Jews. They're not polite, you know, they won't talk to you, they won't this and that. And I said, oh, maybe they're just racist, you know, maybe they're, you know, anti-Semitic. But when you look at them, where I work, there's a little group of Orthodox Jews. They're not very polite to people, especially to women, you know, and that's, you know, and so I said to myself, what do I want? Do I want my kids to be religious, to have the right form, the external appearance, right? Or do I want my kids to live out a real, authentic relationship with God? And many people say here, what does it mean to have a relationship with God? What does that mean? You know? Because all the religion speaks about having a relationship with God, you know? And so many of us define to have a relationship with the Creator, with God, you know, praying, fasting, reading books, going to Bible studies, going to praises seminars, and doing all sorts of things because we want to make sure that we are in a relationship with God. But God has already defined what it means to be in a relationship with Him. What is it? Your relationship with God is going to be determined on how you treat others.
Exactly. Love your neighbor as you love yourself.
When you know that your relationship with God is defined by how you will treat others, you can say, I have a relationship with the Creator. Because I'm treating the one who is not me, as myself, because he was created by the same God that I believe in. And this message, what we were talking this morning, this message is not very easily accepted because it doesn't come with the fluff, right? With the fuegos artificiales, with the, how do you call that? The accoutrement, you know, with the fireworks and the trumpets and the, you know, and the people and the, no. So people don't like it. People don't like it. But we have to ask ourselves, are we going to go after what people expect, what is having a relationship with God? Or are we going to go with what God has defined as what it means to have a relationship with God? So, you know, I don't know what to say. You know, as a member of this community, I don't know what to say. Every Shabbat, if you notice, we are less and less and less, you know. But one of the things that I'm telling you right now, I won't change my point of view regarding the Torah. No. They can, you know, people can leave, people can disagree, but I cannot change my point of view when it comes to Torah. And when it comes to Torah, I ask myself, do I want to follow the masses or do I want to follow God? Do I want to do what people are doing or do I want to do what God wants me to do? So this is our challenge for our community this week. Oh, of course, I believe so. Shabbat Shalom.